Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier for Weekend Wrap, taking a look back at last Saturday's Grade 3 Sam F. Davis Stakes at Tampa Bay Downs, an important Kentucky Derby prep. They break from the gate the number 8 McCracken, the favorite in this race, coming in off an undefeated juvenile campaign. He's going to end up in a pretty comfortable spot in mid-pack.
Yeah, he really is. And Brian Hernandez does a very, very good job, I think, right now. Get him down to the rail, save the ground going in, especially considering this is his first start off the layoff, and he gets a pretty honest pace to chase it.
Another horse to keep an eye on is the number 7. That's Taprit, who right now is just in front of McCracken. He's going to save ground down towards the inside under Jose Ortiz. A little bit eager and pulling right now, but he'll settle. Takes dirt in his face. He ran well.
There's a lot to digest with this horse because, like you say, early on he was a little bit keen. He finally did relax, but then going into the far turn, you'll see in a little bit, Jose's got to get into him and encourage him to get into the running, but he stays on very nicely.
The horse on the lead, the number 1 State of Honor, stakes placed in his most recent start at Gulfstream, and now adding blinkers for Mark Casse. He is setting the pace right now. Fact-finding, an undefeated 3-year-old for Todd Pletcher is pressing, and the pace is honest.
Boy, State of Honor's a big boy, isn't he? He's out there on the front end. He's finally relaxed. He was pulling a little bit early on as well when they got him out of the gate, but the pace is honest. You're going to see 3/4 and 10 and 4, and this is really when the running starts. See Wild Shot way out on the far outside, but really now McCracken, you're going to see him. He's going to start to tip out.
Wild Shot made a long 4-wide bib to get into contention. He's going to run okay to finish 4th, understandably flattening out. But McCracken is in full flight. Fact-finding, disappointing, backed out of it right here. Right now, State of Honor's trying to go from home. He is immediately confronted from Wild Shot, but here is McCracken, the best horse rolling on the outside. But I do like the way that little Taprit stays on, and once he gets in the clear, he runs late.
Yeah, he finishes very, very well. Like you say, at this point, McCracken, you're not going to run him down, but Taprit finishes really nicely here. You see him extending through the wire down on the inside. I thought State of Honor ran fine. I thought Wild Shot ran fine, all things considered. I really can't find anything to knock about any of the top 4. I thought all of them acquitted themselves very well.
You certainly can't knock anything about McCracken. Undefeated, and he's just a really likable horse. He relaxes in the early portion. He finishes his races. He is very professional. He set a track record in the Sam F. Davis and received a 95 Beyer speed figure while giving 6 pounds to the runner-up.
Which, you know what, you and I, we may not be the biggest weight people, but at the end of the day, 6 pounds is 6 pounds, particularly coming off the layoff. This is his first start as a 3-year-old, and I like you say, there's nothing really to knock about this horse. In my opinion, he's not overly brilliant, but he's professional, and you know what you're going to get. At this point, I know he's only raced 4 times, and it sounds foolish for me to say this because I know he's won all 4 of them, but you haven't gotten a clunker out of him. And you know what? That's more than you can say about 90% of the 3-year-olds that we've seen. He has yet to have any sort of hiccup. He's just everything you could look for right now, anyway, in a Derby contender.
He's by that brilliant racehorse Ghost Sapper. He's a half to Bondurant, whose graded stakes place on the turf. Seems to really like a distance of ground as well. This dam was a grade 3 place sprinter, and the dam's a half to a grade 1 stakes winning turf horse. So there's a little bit of pedigree in here, certainly for McCracken, and you get the feeling that Ian Wilkes really appreciated this race. A nice starting off point. The Tampa Bay Derby on March 11th looks like the next spot, then on to the Bluegrass before the Kentucky Derby.
And you know, I know it's kind of become fashionable to have 2 and then Derb. I like the idea of getting 3 starts into him beforehand, and at the end of the day, you look at this horse, like you say, there's a little bit of pedigree and maybe there's some sprinty influence as well, but I don't think distance is going to be an issue for him just based on the way that he moves. It'll be interesting to see when you get more as far as field quantity is concerned and also when quality is concerned, because I know that final race that he ran as a 2-year-old in the Kentucky Jockey Club, it's come back pretty live. I think people will look at this result at face value and say, well, Taprit was coming out of a sloppy track score that was off the turf. State of Honor, second time dirt, maybe he was sort of suspect. And Wild Shot, McCracken's beating him each and every time. I don't want to be like that. I think all 4 of them did very, very well here.
I agree with you. I think this was sort of a coming out party, though, for the runner-up Taprit, a horse that cost a lot of money. He was a 7-figure purchase. He obviously has that big pedigree. I believe this was his first start around 2 turns, and he acquitted himself quite well. His dam was sort of more of a sprinty type. I think she won the spin away, although she did stretch out to win around 2 turns as a 3-year-old. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he performs next time out, because he seemed to gallop out well after the wire.
You know, we talked about it a little bit on Saturday, and I feel like it even more after seeing the race and watching it a couple of times. It feels very destined to me, where Destin came to Tampa. He didn't really know what he was doing, but he ran very well in his first start. I believe it was this race, actually, behind Outwork, his stablemate. Comes back, wins the Tampa Bay Derby. I'm not trying to compare the two and say that this is going to be Destin, because Destin ended up running second, losing by a nose in the Belmont, but Tapper is an interesting horse. Don't think distance is going to be a problem for him. He just needs to learn a little bit more, and I think this was Todd Pletcher's got to be thrilled
very happy
with the
this
way
horse.
this race was run, because now all of a sudden he may look at it and say, okay, you know what, fact finding didn't work out. We know we've got this horse at the Tampa Bay Derby.
As for fact-finding, he had won his prior 3 starts by big margins, but they were kind of winning ugly. And you got the feeling that once he faced better horses, he wouldn't be able to win ugly. And here he pressed State of Honor, no problem with the trip. He just had nothing turning into the stretch.
I wonder if it's a combination of him not being nearly as good as some of these other horses. And also, I don't know how far he wants to go. Maybe he's going to be a one-turn horse at heart. I was dubious of him coming in. I'm dubious of him coming out.
State of Honor did do a lot of work in this race on the lead. He had to put away fact-finding, and then he was immediately confronted by the wide rallying Wild Shot. He put Wild Shot away eventually late in the game, and then was no match for the top 2. It was a good effort, but Mark Cassie's already kind of making noise. We want to turn him back.
With that big body, I can't. Well, you can look at it one of 2 ways and say, well, it's a red flag that they already want to turn him back. I'm kind of looking at it saying he's built. You know, we always talk about big body and you want to be able to see out the distance.
Never know.
Some of these sprinters are best with these big bodies, and they can go on with it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this horse turns into a nice sort of 7/8 kind of runner, maybe a Woody Stevens, maybe a Pat Day Mile type. I thought he ran very well here. If it were me, I would give him another shot.
I think he will get one more shot. If that doesn't work out, they always have the cutback in the back pocket. And as for Wild Shot, that was a nice, solid, wide bid. It was his first start since the Kentucky Jockey Club. He might not be of McCracken's level, but it was a good effort. When Mike Beer was on DRF Live with us, the Rusty Arnold horse from last year, Star Hill, comes to mind. Maybe this horse will be a late-running 7/8 type.
I have no problem with that. I think that would be a very, very good spot for him. I thought he ran well here in this spot, considering how wide he was, but then it keeps coming back to, well, McCracken has beaten you every time that you guys have run into one another. Maybe you're just never going to get to him, and if you're never going to get to him, are you really a Derby contender? I don't think so.
What happened with No Dozing? He just didn't seem to fire as the 7-2 third choice, and it didn't exactly flatter the Remsen.
No, I have to be honest. I liked him coming into it. I actually loved him, and I thought he was awful. He was beaten on the far turn. If you look at it just strictly from a speed figure standpoint, his last race in the Remsen earned the 82. You made mention of it coming into this. The Remsen has come back very, very poor. He earned a 79 here today. The case can be made. Has he not moved forward from 2 to 3 when everyone else is still going on? Where it's, we use that old sort of analogy, the 6th grader that is just bigger and better than everyone else. Well, when all the other kids catch up to him and he doesn't get any bigger and better, well, then you got a problem. I don't know that we want to write him off after one race, but boy, it's hard to trust him coming out of this. He was terrible.
But McCracken, flawless in his career thus far. 4 for 4 for trainer Ian Wilkes. He wins the Sam F. Davis. Track record time, 95 Beyer speed figure. Keep an eye out for Taprit. This is a really nice performance. They might meet up again in the Tampa Bay Derby on March the 11th.